and then a governor willing to sign it, then the idea is no good. And this is something that I've been traveling around the country, literally traveling around the country and talking to major trade associations who represent industries and businesses in the retail sector, and this is something they've been complaining about for a long time. Earlier this past month in February, I co-led a 38-state letter asking the U.S. Congress to address this on a national scale, because when you look nationally at organized retail crime, I think over the last 5 or 6 years, there are estimates of around $121 billion in financial losses due to organized retail theft. 76% of retail management asset managers actually say that their employees in these businesses are actually being accosted. They're actually being attacked, assaulted by some of these criminals engaged in organized retail theft. You know, I want to distinguish ORC, organized retail crimes, from your run-of-the-mill petty and grand larceny. Somebody can go into a convenience store or a big box store or a mom and pop business and smash and grab or swipe or put something under their coat and leave. This is designed to deal with the business of organized crime that deals with theft. And a lot of the crimes that get committed where people are stealing, you know, $200 or $300 from this store and then going to another county or another city and stealing $200 or $300 there and then stealing $500 there, and it's basically part of a conspiracy amongst multiple people, and usually can be very complex, and it's in multiple jurisdictions. A lot of this ORC, the organized retail crime, is feeding other types of crimes. Violent gang activity, human trafficking, drug trafficking, all of this stuff is connected. And so this is a bill that I'm incredibly grateful that they have passed and that I've advocated for at the national level, and that South Carolina is doing it here, because again, we can't control what Congress does, but South Carolina can own its own criminal statutes, which they have done. And so I'm incredibly proud that the legislature and the governor have passed this law that allows us to take a bunch of small theft crimes and aggregate them over a 90-day period to get up to felony level and to go after the big, you know, operations that are going on around this state. Again, this organized retail crime bill is a fantastic bill. It is well written. It is an extra tool in the bag of tools that local law enforcement and prosecutors can use to better protect their communities. Because remember, we live in this time of all these inflationary prices. The cost of living's gone up over the last 5 years. On top of that, the cost of deterring this type of crime, the cost of preventing it and protecting retailers gets borne by the end user, the consumer. So this is not just about protecting retail, absolutely want to do, and protect the small businesses as well. This is about protecting people in their communities from having to pay even higher prices. I'm sitting here with two solicitors. We got our Fifth Circuit Solicitor Byron Gibson and Eighth Circuit Solicitor David Stumbo from the upstate, and you'll hear from one of them in just a second, but I want to thank both of them for being here and for their leadership on protecting our communities. One thing I would ask of the General Assembly, this is a great bill, but there's one way we can enhance this bill, and we've already provided the legislature with some language, but the state grand jury is a multi-jurisdictional investigative tool that allows the Attorney General and the Chief of SLED or local solicitors and local law enforcement to use the state grand jury to go after these types of crimes. However, the ORC bill needs to be added to the State Grand Jury Act, because the state grand jury can only go after specifically listed crimes under that statute in the code. So we would ask that they go back and take this amazing bill that is an incredible tool, an incredible asset to all of us, and add it to the list of crimes that we can use the state grand jury to investigate. That would be one additional measure we could take. But again, I want to thank everyone who was here today, our retailers who are representing a very large sector in our communities and a very large sector in the free market of South Carolina. I want to thank our prosecutors, our legislators. Krista, thank you for allowing me to be here. And again, we look forward to implementing and using this new law to go after those people who are hurting our retailers and are hurting our local economies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those words and for your commitment to working with retailers to address this issue. It really is a partnership between a lot of us, all of us standing here today, and several others to address this crime. So thank you so much for that commitment. As General Wilson said, we also have some solicitors here. They're also crucial partners in addressing this issue and bringing down these criminals. So now I will ask Solicitor Stumbo to come up here and speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm David Stumbo. I'm the solicitor up in Abbeville, Greenwood, Newberry, and Lawrence counties. And I can tell you, as in the trenches prosecutors, it is so beneficial to have new tools to use to go after crimes that we're seeing develop. And just in recent years, this organized retail crime movement has really had a ton of impact. In fact, I met Nathan Smith. He was one of our colleagues as a district attorney out in Arkansas. He came and spoke to our solicitors' meetings back in October, and he told me they're losing millions of dollars a week, and now he's working for Walmart. And so this is an issue that's near and dear to his heart. I thank you for the retailers that are here from Walmart and Walgreens, I think some of our other main retailers here today. It's not affecting just the business, it's affecting the consumer. Like General Wilson stated, this is really about the consumer. And they're already paying more to go buy anything right now because of runaway inflation under the last presidential administration. But in addition to that, they're dealing with businesses that are suffering a lot of losses, and that cost is always passed on to the consumer, and it affects the employees of these businesses as well. So I'm very thankful for the General Assembly, who's Jeff and Robbie, and I think I saw Representative Hyatt back behind us. Thank you all for your work on this bill. It is absolutely critical that we have these tools in the trenches, in the courtrooms. Thank you all for the House and for the members of the Senate that worked on this as well. And General Wilson, thank you for your advocacy on this very important issue as well. Hopefully we can take these new tools that have been given to us, and as the solicitors, 16 solicitors around the state, we can get to work going after these criminals that are so affecting us. And I think what this does is there's a great distinction here, and as prosecutors, we have to distinguish between the person that's down on their luck that steals, a can of Coca-Cola and a pack of crackers and is shoplifting. That's a crime, certainly, and it needs to be dealt with. But under the laws as we had them before this bill, it was much more difficult to really hit these guys that are in these gangs driving the big theft of these goods because we were having to use the laws that were just the same laws that were applicable to the guy stealing the pack of crackers and Coke. So now this law has some teeth to it. We have enhanced penalties, and we can really go after these organized criminal groups that are driving prices up for consumers and affecting our retailers. Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you so much for your words. As you've heard and as has been said, this is a huge issue affecting our communities, our retail workers, our customers, and just public safety in general. So we're very excited to be able to have the tools to work together to address this and make sure that we make clear that this type of criminal activity is not tolerated in South Carolina. So again, I want to say thank you all for coming today, and thanks to you all for being here and making it possible to get to this point so that we have the laws in place to address organized retail crime in this state. And again, thank you to the governor who has expressed his commitment to sign this bill into law so we can get to work and enforcing this. At this time, that will conclude the press conference. Do you have any questions?
Are there any particular gangs that you are targeting when it comes to these retail thefts? Any specific gangs that's been...
All gangs, and not just gangs. Any two or more individuals who conspire to engage in this organized, that's the operative word, organized retail crime. Like Solicitor Stumbo said, there's a difference between the person who is swiping something either because they want to feed their family or just because they want a shiny new thing from Best Buy. There's a difference between that person and a person who is running an organized criminal ring where multiple people are conspiring to steal from multiple stores to resell those items on the black market or in another market to raise funds to further their criminal activity. This is more of kind of like an organized crime syndicate as opposed to people just shoplifting for their own personal advancement. When someone steals a DVD player or stereo or TV, they're probably using it themselves, right? Or steals a pair of shoes or a piece of jewelry. When they're stealing multiple times from multiple stores for the purpose of then reselling it, they're furthering that criminal enterprise. And usually the funds from that criminal enterprise are not just funding the organized retail crime, It could be funding other things like drug trafficking, human trafficking, fentanyl trafficking, any other types of criminal activity. So is there a specific gang in mind? It's any gang or group of people, whether they have a gang name or not. Not every gang has a name on it, like MS-13 or Tren de Agua or something like that. This could be just a group of people conspiring to further a criminal enterprise. And also, I did want to say, I know that we mentioned Walgreens and Walmart, but I understand that Lowe's is represented as well as Publix. I don't know if I'm omitting any other retailers. And these, who? Spinks. I'm sorry. My goodness, Haley Thrift is going to kill me. Back here, who used to work for me. Spinks, as you know, Spinks convenience stores, and very, very prominent in the upstate. But this isn't just the big box stores and the big retailers. This is mom and pops as well. So we want to speak for them as well.
So this is something you had to prosecute. I know the laws are like these organized retail groups. Like these are things that we're seeing a lot in South Carolina.
You want me to take that question? Whoever. All right, I'll catch the ball, and if anyone wants to add. Let me talk about another crime. Before there was a human trafficking law, we had laws on the books. We had kidnapping, criminal sexual conduct, exploitation of a minor. We had all these things that we could cobble together to go after human trafficking, but we had no comprehensive law that looked at the organized component of that type of criminal conduct. And then the Human Trafficking Act was passed. This is somewhat similar to that in that we obviously have property crimes on the books. We have laws that address criminal gang activity, right? Where you have so many people engaged in that criminal conspiracy to conduct criminal conduct. But you have to kind of cobble these together. This basically allows us to aggravate a bunch of smaller crimes to create felony level crimes, and in the more money they steal, that's aggravated over multiple times, the higher the felony is, and it allows us to go after the conspiracy component. If Alan Wilson walks into a Best Buy and grabs an iPhone, sticks it in my pocket and walks out, that's one thing. But if Alan Wilson's running around all the Best Buys in the state and Apple Store stealing iPhones so that I can then resell them on the black market to further that conduct, that is a completely different kind of crime. And so, I don't know if that answered your question, but we are seeing the retailers are here for a reason. They're not here because they have nothing to do today. They're here because this is a real problem for them. I just co-led a bipartisan 38-state coalition letter to the U.S. Congress addressing this on a global stage because this is a national problem and it is trickling down and it's certainly affecting people here in South Carolina. I don't know if any of our...
Real quick,
Yeah.
If I can add to that, with this bill, what we really wanted to do is make it clear as to what conspiracy is, what organized retail crime is, so that law enforcement, prosecutors, when they're in the courtroom, they can tell the jury exactly what this is. And what we really want to go after is like what these prosecutors have been saying, who are the fence? Who are those people who are buying these goods from the people who are stealing them and selling them to them? It's big business. There have been warehouses with millions of dollars worth of goods that have been housed in there. And like I said when I first spoke I've talked to different states, legislators from different states, retailers, law enforcement, and people go in there and it's their business. It is their business. And in South Carolina, you could get less time doing this than you could with drugs. So they're trying to do this, and just like the Attorney General, Alan Wilson, said is, whoever these groups are, and of course, law enforcement normally doesn't like to identify whoever their suspects are, but they are tied up in a lot of it. It is organized crime, drugs, retail theft, all these, and it's big money in retail theft. And really, we want to have this law to where we can find out who those fences are, get those who are stealing, and most importantly, the fences.
I'll add briefly to that too, that I work closely with my counterparts in other state retail associations, and I mentioned the Carolinas Organized Retail Crime Alliance, which is North and South Carolina. And so North Carolina did pass a law like this a few years back, and so these are crimes that are not, they don't stay within county lines or state lines. They go up and down the coast, they go across the country. And so often our law enforcement, our solicitors, our retailers will work together with folks in other states to build these cases and see what the actual value of these retail goods are. Because South Carolina's law up until now didn't have the penalties appropriate to really charge them in this state. We relied heavily on our other state partners who did have those laws, as well as federal Homeland Security partners to prosecute. So to make sure that those who were doing these type of activities in our state and other states were appropriately punished. But it is happening here now already. So thank you.
And one other piece to that, if I may. One of the interesting parts about this also is there's a 90-day provision that allows us to, as General has said, to aggregate. And so if there are matters that are taking place in Columbia, maybe they're taking place in Myrtle Beach, maybe they're in Newberry, maybe they're in Kershaw County, we can add those matters together over a period of time of that 90 days, so the word we use is aggregate, and so that total number ends up being what we can go after. And so in those situations, if they're happening in different jurisdictions, then we as solicitors can approach the Attorney General and say, hey, there's a matter that's taking place in Richland County in the Fifth Circuit, but there's several others, and these same actors are doing it in other places, and we can receive special permission to prosecute that case and to be a part of that case if it's in a different jurisdiction. That's where I think the Attorney General was going with having a state grand jury portion to this, so that there would be statewide jurisdiction where that could be prosecuted by the Attorney General's office, and we could assist as local solicitors if necessary.
Any other questions? All right, thank you all so much for coming out today.
Thank you. Well said. No, thank you. Thanks, sir. No, appreciate it. No, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here. So nice to meet you. I'm so happy to be here.